Hello, good morning, everybody. Winkomun is a program that we started in Barcelona in 14 years now. And what we try to address really is the challenge of financial inclusion for disadvantaged collectives, not only migrants. And we try to do it through the creation of self-funded groups. We have seen that that is a practice that most of the time migrants, they import from their country of origin and they put into practice when they come in the host country. So what we have done is we have developed a kind of online methodology that is for free access to anybody, and we try to help them to organize themselves, to build assets in order to provide for themselves. Because we think that one of the big problems to face the problem of poverty is that we think that poverty is only lack of money. And what we have seen through these 14 years working with poor people is that most of the time it is related to a certain relationship with money. It's not lack of money, but a kind of consumption attitude, a kind of lack of social network, and we try to empower these people and to organize them just to build assets and try to establish a kind of networks of solidarity and mutual help.
And do you think that that money, money in a Western society is something that we're very, very familiar with in terms of using? But if you've come from other societies where perhaps it was mainly farming or other industries where you're dealing with swaps of services and food stuff to be able to support yourself, and now you're in a society where money is the key way in which we engage and grow. Do you think there's sufficient education at the moment to support people who are migrating to a different culture to be able to integrate?
I think it is important to focus on the financial inclusion and how they should organize themselves to try to find out the resources and the incomes to organize themselves. Maybe the context and the circumstances between the country of origin of the migrants and the European societies are very different. Because in those societies, most of the time, communities are obliged to organize themselves because the state do not really arrive where they should in terms of education, in terms of health. So communities are obliged to organize themselves. Maybe in Western societies, the state do cover this kind of services. So maybe people, they should organize themselves for personal needs or community needs. And we think that it is important to try to organize this kind of, let's say, initiative. In our model, we think that maybe money is important, but it's not that important that social network. Because something like 6 years ago, we implemented a survey among our users in Spain, and it was really a surprise for us just to see that up to 70% of the members, they participate in this kind of groups, not for the financial aspect, but for a kind of lack of social networks. Because for migrants, it is important for them to have people on who they rely, they can trust, they can speak, they can try to work their full integration, which is not the case with natives. So we try to focus in this kind of thing just to put them in a network, in a community, to make them more resilient. That is important for these groups.
So you're using finances, but really finance is becoming a mechanism for connection and community and building the network.
Absolutely. For us, money is really a hook. It's a kind of mechanism just to go to a more deeper objective, which is organizing, which is community, which is networks and let's say synergies of dynamics of mutual help.
What kind of results have you seen over the years? I mean, you've been going for a while. Can you give us a few examples of some of your great testimonial type stories?
I think that to talk about the, let's say, the impact of this program, I can indicate myself as a good example of this because I began working in this program as a beneficiary. When I arrived in Barcelona something like 18 years ago, one of the first thing I did, because I did know nobody, so I was like alone and poor. So what I did is try to create a kind of this circle of network. And I have been able to go to university, to do 2 masters, to do a PhD, thanks to the support of my group. Because they give me the loans I need to pay my tuition for the university. And I knew that whenever I had any problem, I can go to them to ask them for help. And this is important. And it is important because it dignifies people. It's not about going to ask for help, and which is really respective. It's about asking for a right that you have for being a member of the group. And we think that in our program, it is important to introduce a kind of change of paradigm in the way poverty and immigration is tackled. Because most of the policies, they are focused on assistance. They not try to empower people, and assistance create a kind of dependence, and people, they assume that they're incapable of doing nothing, so they rely continuously on assistance and help they can get from charities from the state. And we think that that's not the good investment we can do for migrants and poor collectives.
So you're looking at assistance versus empowerment versus assistance.
Yeah, that's the idea.
And what kind of, so we've got people now who are in a completely different country. They've built a lot of connection. I love what you said earlier when you said, you know, it's a right. You know, I'm asking for help, but because of the setup, I'm asking for my right from the group, rather than me going for help. Is it like creating a new family?
That's the situation, because why integration is so important. And if we try to go through the theories of networks in migration studies, we see how networks are important in migration. So if you do not have network, it will be very difficult for you to access housing, to have a job. For anything, you need networks. So for these people, it's important that they have network not only with people of their country of origin, but people in the host society. It's about creating a new family. And most of the time, our beneficiary, they talk about their self-funded group as the economic families, as their family, because without that family, it would be very difficult for them to access full integration.
So what happens when people we can probably use yourself as an example, who've come into the program, they've gone all the way through the end of it, they've built a amazing community of people around them, and it's allowed them to re-educate, learn a new language, and integrate. What sorts of roles and jobs do you see these sorts of individuals going into, and how does the circle work to kind of keep that coming back in?
I think that maybe it may depend on the country when we're talking about. For example, in Spain or in Southern Europe, Spain, to access a job, the informal networks are very important, but because normally people, they don't go to a public institution to ask for work, because they ask to friends, to relatives, to the close neighborhood. So this is important. Maybe if you go to, let's say, Scandinavian country, maybe the state is more present, people, they can go to apply for a job. So depending on the country, when we are talking about, you may need more or less network just to have a more stability in your life.
And how do you grow something like this? This is what's really exciting, because I mean, there's differences in different countries and territories, as you've just alluded to, because sometimes the government is organized better, and sometimes it's less organized in terms of being able to facilitate information. So these informal networks really, really help, and you do need the local knowledge. How do you grow something like this so you can impact more people? Where do you see that going to?
In our program, we really focus on the migrant. So we try to talk to them, we try to explain to them that you can make your way. It's possible, but you have to be less dependent on what they give you, because it's easy to ask and to do nothing. So it implies to make efforts, to be responsible, but if you make the efforts and you organize yourself, it will be possible for you to access to a better life. Otherwise, you will be all the time dependent on what they give you, and expectant about the services they can offer you. So it is up to you to organize yourself to do your work. I would like just to introduce something, because now I'm collaborating in Ashoka program. Since now 3 years, Ashoka is developing a program they call Hello Europe. So what they do, they identify proven solution in their network in terms of how to tackle immigration, and they try to scale them in new countries. We have done it in Germany, in the Netherlands, in Belgium, and the next will be in Spain. So we identify in all the world good solution to tackle immigration, and we help them accelerate and match with organizations in those countries we are working with. In this case, it will be in Spain and in the Nordic countries.
So if people are thinking, oh, this is great, but I'm not sure that we have anything like this in our country, like I'd love to be able to see that we're able to organize similar sort of networks in different parts of the world, how do they access that to be able to perhaps become a, initiate other communities very similar?
Yeah, because, so now since 2014, what we've done, because before we were working with papers methodology, offline methodology, so we invested money to develop an online methodology that is available in 4 languages. So anybody from anywhere in the world can access and create its own group. So there is no need to go for our let's say, organization. You can access and create your group. It's free. Because we are a non-profit organization, so we sustain our activities through grants, through public support, and we are working this way.
So it's pretty easy then. You just go online and you download a pack.
And you create your group, yeah.
So you go online and you download a pack.
Winkomun.
I'm looking at you guys because this is how we implement change. I mean, we can sit here and listen and say, oh, this is very nice, but it's very simple for people to get involved and go and make this, make the change. So what kind of contributions can we kind of celebrate in terms of, I'm always, I don't want to, we can sit here and we can talk about the refugee problem, but there's no excitement or hope in that, right? It's more exciting and more hopeful for us to think of actually what kind of impact does this have on a large scale? So how many people have you been able to, how many people do you support at the moment?
For the data we dispose of, there are something like 215 15 groups that have created all around the world so far. Let's say that something like 80 of them in European countries, because we initiated in Barcelona, so we have scaled up the methodology and 6 other European countries like Germany, the Netherlands, Italy, Portugal, and Belgium. So, and we have always worked through this methodology is to try to scale up through like-minded organizations or individuals in those countries that want to, let's say, scale up our methodology in the country where they are. So we facilitate them all the training, all the material for them to develop the program.
You mentioned something about collaboration with other organizations. How important is that for you in terms of growing the methodology that you have?
I think it is important because in our business plan, we do not try to go to every country to create delegations because we think it's not really financially, we cannot sustain it to create group teams in every country. So we always look for like-minded organizations in any territory, in Haiti, in Dominican Republic, in Indonesia, in Senegal, in Angola, that want to replicate our methodology, and they can do it for free. They do not have to pay us. We train them, we give them access to all the methodology and the material for them to do so.
Okay, so it's hugely important. So if you've got an organization where you think, actually, I could probably really support in getting this out a little bit further, then that would be brilliant. What last word of hope do you want to leave people with in terms of migration and refugees and integration? If you had like one kind of last point in terms of hope or a last message, what would that be?
I think that the message I would like to share are 2. The first one is just if we think about refugees and migration, not to think locally. If you think that if there is a war in Asia, in Pakistan, or they want to arrive in Europe, or if they are maybe 3,000 kilometers far from here, they will never arrive here, it's not true. If a migrant is in a situation of war or of political instability, they will find the way to arrive in the country they think they will have better life. So all those policies that will try to close the frontiers and to say to people don't come, they will not work. People will always find out the way to arrive where they want to go. And the second one is about what to do once in the host countries. We need to change the way policies are designed just to tackle the problem of migration. Not to think only in assisting, which is really denigrating, just to think you are incapable, I will have to help you. Just try to empower people and to say to them that having a better life, it is in your hand that you can provide for yourself, but we will give you the tools to do so.
So moving away from assistance to tools and empowerment.
Yeah, sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together again for Abdoulaye Fall.